live in a society where honor is a distant memory. Isn't that right, Batman?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Tyler with TLC Reviews. Once again, I am joined by Jack Metcalfe of Is This Anime podcast. We are super excited today to be talking about the Justice League Zack Snyder Cut. He's a huge fan of this kind of material and has a lot to say. What were your first initial thoughts after seeing this brand new trailer?
We're in a weird scenario where it's like, I'm just looking up when Justice League came out. Just again, it was a blur, that movie. November 2017, and like, this is a weird thing. I mean, you know me, I like video games. Video games get remade all the time and they're remastered. You know, it's not like this is the first time we've seen a director's cut before or anything like that. But it's still weird that like Warner Brothers is treating this like a brand new movie when it's more like an HD remaster. I would be more excited for Justice League 2, even though I didn't like Justice League 1. I would rather them just take the bits that worked in that one movie and made another movie. And you know, who else will the Justice League fight? I mean, James Gunn is doing the Suicide Squad, and it looks awesome, even though I did not think the original Suicide Squad was good. So it's a weird tactic that instead of getting Justice League 2, we're getting a director's cut that will be 4 hours long.
One eternity later.
Still basically the same story of, you know, six superheroes fighting against a dude named Steppenwolf. Who do any of us care about Steppenwolf? No! So yeah, my thoughts on the trailer was, you know, I think Zack Snyder has a very good visual style. I mean, that's why people like him. He's certainly a better visual director than Joss Whedon was, because again, he left it in maybe February, maybe March. There's been conflicting reports, and Zack Snyder himself has not been forthcoming. Joss Whedon took over this production. Warner Brothers was not happy with the direction of what Zack Snyder and his co-writer Chris Terrio were doing. They were scared by the negative reception to Batman versus Superman, which was a very dark movie, or quote unquote dark. I always laugh at people who say these movies are dark. I'm like, there's still movies about comic book characters. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
here.
It's not a good movie.
It's not a good movie. But you know what? I'll say this about Batman versus Superman. It's better than the theatrical cut of Justice League, because I think Zack Snyder does have a point of view, even if I don't care for that point of view. I think he is an interesting artist in his own way. Whether or not I think he is a good artist is a whole nother conversation, but I will give respect to the man and his visual style for sure. But like Joss Whedon, even before Zack Snyder had left, was doing rewrites on his Justice League film, and then eventually Whedon took complete control because WB demanded it of him, and then ended up like having effectively 80 new pages of a 120-minute film. So I mean, they had reshoots going on throughout the summer of 2017. It has a very different tone from what Zack Snyder's previous two superhero movies were like. And you know, Justice League comes out. It's not a very good movie. It flopped. It made somewhere in the realm of 600 million, which for a movie containing let's say 3 really famous superheroes and 3 other superheroes who exist. This movie comes out, and normally when a bad movie comes out, even if there's a director shakeup, it comes out, it flops or it succeeds, and then you move on. Maybe make a sequel that fixes those mistakes. But instead, no, fans were really clamoring for Zack Snyder's original vision. And, you know, it helped that Zack Snyder, obviously a person, you know, after grieving for the loss of his daughter, was ready to, you know, kind of try and make this career come back, because, you know, again, Warner Brothers did kind of put the flopping of the DCEU on his shoulders to some extent. And so, you know, when fans are clamoring for it, and Zack Snyder, of course, saw an opportunity to, you know, maybe revive his career, of course he took it. I don't blame the guy. Compared to other people involved in the making of this movie, Zack Snyder as a human being is a good person. Again, look up the Joss Whedon stuff lately.
No,
or you know, Amber Heard or Jared Leto.
A lot of people are talking about the fact that he says this line, "We live in a society," and people are going nuts over this. When I first saw the trailer,
are you familiar with the meme?
No, so I'm not. That's the thing. Let's talk about that. Because when I first saw the trailer, I was like, oh, that's a great line. And then I go online and everyone's talking about this. We live in a society and they're laughing their asses off. And I'm just like, why? What's the significance of this?
It's like a 2018-ish meme. I think there were like really silly, ironic petitions asking for Joaquin Phoenix's Joker to say the line because, of course, I think a lot of people felt that the Joker movie Joaquin Phoenix was going to be this meme movie, which it ended up doing. There's a million memes from what I think is a very mediocre film, but it kind of made sense that, of course, Jared Leto, who is a provocateur in many ways, would say this silly meme. He seemed to he winked at it on Twitter, even said we live in a society. So I think he knew he was in on the joke, and his whole Joker persona in Suicide Squad I felt was a joke itself.
It was terrible.
I was not a fan of it. It was terrible. I'll give him credit. This version of the Joker looks better than what he did previously.
Like, I feel like it's a completely different tone than the Joker in the Suicide Squad.
I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
The way he's speaking is like he's an actual normal person, but it's like they took away his whole persona, that voice he had, that laugh. Obviously he's not laughing in that line, but it just seemed like they saw Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and was like, oh, we're just gonna copy that because that's what worked.
Well, I don't even think it's Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in like the 5 minutes that Joker persona is actually in is very kind of fey and lispy. I liked what Phoenix did. I just think that movie itself was mediocre.
Okay.
Phoenix is a great actor, of course.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But no, like I mean, there's even context. Zack Snyder. Listen, if you want to see spoilers for Zack Snyder's Justice League, you don't really have to look far because Zack Snyder has said in so many interviews what each thing means. Like you can almost pretty much make a plot summary just by Zack Snyder quotes at this point.
Do you feel this movie is going to do well?
I think people will watch it. I think even for me, a person who does not think this movie will be good, I do not think a superhero movie should be 4 hours.
No. God.
Endgame got away with 3, and Endgame was a buildup of 21 other films, and they had done it the proper way. They had done it the most proper way that you could possibly imagine.
It was justified. It was justified.
It was justified, and there were a lot of plot threads set up, but there aren't many plot threads set up in this movie. It's the third Zack Snyder superhero movie of this series he was kind of doing. Snyder himself had said he had like a 5-film arc plan, basically. And that's a whole another scenario. When Zack Snyder was developing this version of the DCEU, he himself he didn't really care about what Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman was if it was gonna connect to his movie or not. Zack Snyder had a 5-film vision. Justice League was going to be the third part of that vision, and then subsequently Justice League 2 and 3 would conclude that. So even then, even though Warner Brothers had this whole idea of we want to spin off from Marvel, or kind of do the reverse of Marvel where we put all our heroes in one movie and then do spin-offs of them later, Snyder himself didn't really care. He wasn't looking to be like a Kevin Feige shepherding this universe, which is already an issue of why these films have had such a just chaotic development cycle and how they don't properly fit in with one another. I mean, at the end of the day, the other factor that made the Snyder Cut a reality is the pandemic. They wanted a film that could be completed within a computer.
The thing that I hated so much about Justice League, Marvel seems to be really great with visual effects and CGI. DC seems to be not good. And this, from the opening shot, I was just like, this just looks like another CGI fest. And I'm like, again, why should I watch this? Why should I care? Like, in your opinion, for someone who's feeling that way, like, why should I care to watch this? Why should they watch it?
For the memes, for the lulz, for the absurdity of it. Because I do consider this whole production to be absurd. I really do. And congrats to Zack Snyder for getting this movie made. I'm not sure how a 4-hour story of superheroes beating up a bad guy with very little buildup deserves this. Like I say, I have nothing bad to say about Snyder other than his filmmaking. And so the fact that, of course, someone like Cyborg, who Snyder says in this cut is the main character, which when I was watching the theatrical cut, I was like, yeah, they should have made Cyborg the main character as the point of view character. That would have made the most sense. Like you put the character who is disconnected the most from the superheroes and then make them the audience surrogate because they're just as confused as you. So that made sense. So I'm curious to see how Ray Fisher's part gets expanded. When you were saying CGI, I actually think Zack Snyder is pretty skilled when it comes to action scenes. I even think Aquaman has some really incredible shots. That the Marvel films are often rushing to production to some extent when it comes to special effects. I think what Marvel succeeds at is even when their special effects are kind of drab, you care about the characters, which obviously means you kind of give it a short or a long leash, you know. I think Zack Snyder does have a visual flair. That's kind of the thing. Snyder's era that he's trying to copy is that kind of over the top, dark and gritty, but also still, I'm going to be a jerk and say it, you know, it's still for children. I think if you have Batman in a movie, it can have depth, but it's still, man, you're still selling Batman toys at the end of the day, guys.
Exactly. Absolutely. Let's talk about Lex Luthor. They open the trailer with Jesse Eisenberg's voice, and I'm not sure that's a good idea. I hated him as Lex Luthor. He is not a Lex Luthor. Like, God, what were they thinking?
I'll defend that take in Batman vs Superman because I like him because he's the only one in that movie who's having fun. Yeah, but he is in a different movie.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it. Listen, man, I don't care if the character doesn't resemble it. It would have been cool if Bryan Cranston or Giancarlo Esposito did it, but I like the idea that, you know, what if, who would be the Lex Luthor of our day? I mean, it would be Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, and that's kind of it. They're wiry dudes who kind of are trying to play up a persona, but I know some people like Elon Musk, but even that guy's just kind of weird.
You make a good point. I never really thought about it that way. So are you saying that you think they were thinking about it from that perspective and not like a comic booky perspective?
I don't think you really need to look at it from comic booky perspective when casting, because of course, you know, look at the Marvel movies. The Guardians of the Galaxy don't resemble those characters from the comics at all. They just kind of did what they wanted to do. James Gunn took a kernel from the Cole Perlman script and kind of expanded on his own ideas, his own personal life. So I think I don't care about comics canon. I just care about an interesting idea. And even then, these comic characters have evolved constantly. Lex Luthor used to be an evil scientist. Then in the 80s, they made him Donald Trump, basically.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the portrayal that I think you and me are kind of more used to, because that was also his cartoon portrayal. Exactly. So it's different eras. Yeah. But I get it. A lot of people did find Jesse Eisenberg's performance very annoying. Yeah. Because, he comes across as he just snorted a bunch of Adderall.
Yeah, no, he reminded me a lot of like Jim Carrey's Riddler, to be honest. You know what I mean, right?
It's a good way of doing it.
Yeah. I feel like
that's a good one. I think that was an interesting idea. In the post-credit scene of the theatrical Justice League cut, Eisenberg looks more like the Lex Luthor people wanted him to. That post-credit scene also featured Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke, who's apparently in this movie as well in a bigger role. Okay. I'm sure there's other surprises because it's going to be 4 hours. I don't know what else they put in. I think they're just playing it by ear. And to be fair, the Fox X-Men movies did the same thing. They never had much of a plan, but they still produced some really good movies. So I think you kind of need that chaos. Some of these movies are going to be terrible. Some of them will be really good. I think Marvel, as much as I love what Marvel does, there's not a ton of surprise. Obviously, you get a WandaVision, which made us very excited, of course. But the Marvel movies feel very much like a house style. You know, you know what to expect. You know the tone. It's going to be kind of quippy. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. So if the DC Extended Universe produces the occasional Joker, and even though I don't like the Joker movie, I thought that was an interesting idea of like, you know what I mean? Like just being like, yeah, we're going to do a dark and gritty kind of Scorsese take on this one character.
Do you have any final closing thoughts on this?
I'm really excited to watch this movie, even though I've been trashing it. I think like I say, that's the word I use a lot. The audacity of this whole project, is going to be something. I'm sure many a good meme will be produced, and who knows, maybe I might even like that movie. And if you guys want to listen to me ramble about the movie when it comes out, my co-host and I, Malcolm McLeod of Is This Anime, will be doing a bonus podcast, a non-anime podcast on the Snyder Cut. We're gonna we're going to watch the 4-hour movie and then probably do what's likely a 3-hour podcast. And we're going to be very, very tired.
Well, thanks for chatting with me again.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, that is Jack Metcalfe. You can check out his podcast, Is This Anime Pod? We'll put a link in the descriptions below. But thanks again for watching, guys. This has been Tyler with TLC Reviews, and thanks for watching.